The internet didn't just whisper this rumor, it practically detonated it. Imagine building an entire global brand around rebellion, truth-telling, and royal defiance, only for the internet to suddenly start asking a question so explosive it makes even seasoned gossip watchers pause mid-scroll. What if the Duchess everyone thinks they know has been hiding a secret for nearly 30 years? What if the story the world was told isn't the full story at all? Because across forums, gossip channels, and late-night comment threads, one rumor refuses to die. A rumor claiming that long before palaces, princes, and global interviews, there might have been a daughter.
Many people doubt Meghan has long been a mother. Following her attendance at Northwestern University, Meghan began dating Joe Giuliano, and the couple got married after having a child when Meghan was almost 20.
Joshua Silverstein was her very first boyfriend. They were both only 13.
According to reports, Noelle was born in or around 1999, which fits the timeline perfectly.
It's really quite sad.
You know, I think as she told it, she approached me.
But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
Given her appearance, Noelle does share some similarities with Joe and Meghan, and she's even more like Meghan.
And that single claim, wild, dramatic, impossible to ignore, is exactly why the speculation refuses to fade. Critics online say the narrative surrounding Meghan Markle has always been polished, carefully framed, almost cinematic. The outspoken actress who became a duchess. The woman who said she finally found her voice after years of being silenced. It's a compelling storyline, but skeptics insist there may be a chapter missing from the early pages. Because when people began digging into Meghan's teenage timeline, they noticed something strange. A quiet little gap sitting right between high school graduation and college. A gap that on paper sounds completely normal. According to official accounts, Meghan graduated in 1994 and then took a year off before starting university. A so-called gap year to explore life, travel, and discover herself. Simple explanation. Except the internet rarely accepts simple explanations when mystery is involved. Online detectives began asking questions. Where exactly did she travel? Where are the photos, the stories, the classmates remembering backpacking adventures through Europe? For a generation that documented everything, that missing year suddenly started looking suspiciously empty. And that's when the rumor mill shifted into overdrive. Because in place of the travel narrative, gossip forums began circulating a completely different story. One involving Las Vegas, a teenage boyfriend named Joe Giuliano, and a marriage that allegedly happened far away from cameras and headlines.
And right now we're in Beverly Hills, and we're gonna pass the Beverly Hilton Hotel, where I'll be on Sunday meeting the other...
According to the rumors spreading across gossip circles, that relationship didn't just exist, it supposedly escalated quickly. Some online sleuths claim the couple quietly tied the knot in Las Vegas, not in some glamorous celebrity elopement, but in a small courthouse ceremony. No royal fairy tale setting, no photographers, just a quick exchange of vows under the kind of fluorescent lights Vegas is famous for. If the whispers are to be believed, the marriage didn't last long. The relationship reportedly collapsed within months, ending with an annulment that critics say was sealed in court records. And that single detail, sealed paperwork, became rocket fuel for conspiracy theories. Because Las Vegas isn't exactly known for hiding legal documents. The city keeps decades of celebrity weddings, divorces, and impulsive midnight ceremonies in public archives. So when online commentators hear about sealed annulment records tied to a teenage relationship, their imaginations run wild. Why seal them? What could possibly be inside those documents that required such heavy privacy? Some skeptics argue courts don't seal files for no reason. Others say it could simply be a routine privacy request. But on the internet, uncertainty doesn't calm speculation, it feeds it. And that's when the story allegedly takes an even stranger turn. Because according to the most dramatic versions of this rumor, the marriage itself wasn't the only secret swirling around that time. Gossip forums claim whispers of a pregnancy began circulating shortly afterward. A baby girl, supposedly born during that mysterious period. The claim has never been proven, never confirmed publicly, and Meghan's supporters strongly dismiss it as pure fiction. But rumor culture doesn't run on proof. It runs on patterns, whispers, and unanswered questions.
He wiped out all kind of pictures, communications with Joe.
According to the theory circulating through internet speculation, the Giuliano family, described by people who claim connections to them as deeply private and traditional, may have raised the child quietly while Meghan moved forward with her education and career. Again, there is no confirmed evidence supporting this claim, but critics argue the rumor keeps resurfacing because it fits what they believe is a pattern of reinvention. They say Meghan's life story often appears to shift dramatically between chapters, from struggling actress to global duchess, from Hollywood Hollywood outsider to royal insider. And to skeptics watching the timeline closely, that missing year still raises questions that have never been fully answered. Because here's what makes the rumor so persistent. When Meghan arrived at Northwestern University, the narrative surrounding her past appeared remarkably clean. No teenage marriage rumors, no whispers of annulments, no sign of a complicated earlier chapter. It looked almost like a system reboot, a brand new life beginning with no visible baggage attached. Critics argue that's exactly why the speculation refuses to disappear. The past, they say, has a strange habit of resurfacing when the spotlight gets bright enough. And Meghan's spotlight became blinding once she entered the royal family. Every detail of her life was suddenly examined under a microscope. Old friends were interviewed, family relationships were dissected, forgotten acquaintances surfaced in documentaries and tabloids. Yet somehow, that mysterious gap year still remained oddly vague, which is why conspiracy channels keep returning to the same explosive question: what really happened during that year? And if even a fraction of the rumors floating around the internet were true, then the quietest chapter of Meghan Markle's past might also be the most explosive one waiting to be revealed. The reason this rumor refuses to disappear isn't just because it sounds dramatic. It's because, in the age of the internet, mysteries behave like loose threads. Pull on them long enough, and suddenly an entire sweater starts unraveling. And for Meghan Markle, critics online say the thread that keeps getting pulled is that same missing chapter. The one sitting quietly between high school and university. The one wrapped in rumors about Las Vegas, annulment records, and a child the public never knew existed. Once that idea entered the gossip ecosystem, it spread like wildfire. Because the internet loves patterns, and skeptics claim they see a pattern in Meghan's life story. One they describe as reinvention after reinvention, chapter after chapter, rewritten as circumstances change. To fans, Meghan's journey is inspiring. A woman who carved her own path from Hollywood auditions to royal palaces. Someone who refused to stay silent when she felt mistreated. But critics watching from the sidelines argue that every major phase of her life seems to come with a clean break from the previous one. Old friends fade away. Family relationships fracture. Entire parts of the past seem to disappear from the narrative. And to conspiracy theorists online, that pattern fuels the speculation that something much bigger may have been left behind during that early chapter of her life. Because if the rumors circulating through forums were ever true, a claim that has never been proven, then the mysterious figure at the center of those whispers would no longer be a rumor at all. She would be a grown woman now, around 30 years old, living somewhere quietly outside the spotlight. And that idea alone is what keeps gossip channels buzzing. Think about the timeline people point to. Nearly 3 decades have passed since that alleged period in Las Vegas. 30 years of silence if the rumors were real. 30 years for a child to grow into an adult with her own voice, her own identity, and the ability to speak publicly if she ever wanted to. Critics online argue that one interview, one photograph, or one confirmed document would instantly transform what has been dismissed as conspiracy talk into the biggest royal adjacent scandal of the modern era. As they imagine headlines exploding overnight, journalists scrambling for answers, and the carefully constructed narrative surrounding Meghan's rise being shaken to its core. Of course, supporters push back strongly against these theories. They said the entire rumor is nothing more than internet fiction stitched together from half-truths, misunderstandings, and a fascination with tearing down public figures. They argue that sealed legal documents don't automatically hide scandal, that private relationships from teenage years aren't unusual, and that speculation without evidence shouldn't be treated like fact. In their view, the story says far more about the internet's obsession with controversy than it does about Meghan Markle herself. But skepticism rarely stops a rumor once it gains momentum, especially when the subject is someone whose life has already been the center of global attention. Because Meghan's story isn't just a celebrity narrative, it's a royal narrative. When she married Prince Harry, the curiosity surrounding her past multiplied overnight. Every childhood detail, every relationship, every interview from years earlier suddenly became global news. Critics say that level of scrutiny is exactly why the rumors resurfaced again and again. When Meghan speaks publicly about telling her truth, about reclaiming her voice, about correcting the narrative surrounding her life, skeptics say it only intensifies the curiosity about the parts of her story that remain unexplained. To them, silence becomes suspicious. The unanswered questions become the real headline. And then there's the scenario conspiracy channels love to imagine, the moment when the past supposedly walks back into the present. In their version of events, somewhere out there exists a person who grew up outside the spotlight, raised quietly far away from royal palaces and media storms. A person who might have watched the entire world debate the life story of a woman they supposedly share a connection with. For years, those rumors claim that live person has remained invisible. But time changes everything. Children become adults, secrets become stories, and speculation turns into obsession when enough years pass without answers. Critics online said that possibility is what makes the rumor feel like a ticking clock. Because if the alleged daughter in these theories ever stepped forward publicly, the entire narrative people believe they know about Meghan Markle could shift overnight. Suddenly, the polished interviews, the documentaries, the speeches about personal truth would be re-examined through an entirely different lens. Every timeline would be questioned. Every missing detail would be dissected. And according to the loudest voices in conspiracy forums, that moment would represent the one scenario Meghan would least want to face, losing control of the narrative she has spent years shaping. Of course, there is another reality that critics often ignore. Rumors can survive for decades without ever becoming real. The internet has a long memory, but an even longer list of theories that never materialized into facts. Yet the reason this particular story keeps resurfacing is because it sits perfectly at the intersection of mystery, celebrity, and royalty. A missing year, a rumored Vegas marriage, sealed legal records, a child who would now be 30. Each element alone might fade away, but together they create a puzzle that conspiracy-minded observers can't stop trying to solve. And that puzzle remains unsolved. No confirmed documents, no verified interviews, no public evidence proving the rumor true. Just the same whispers repeating across forums, videos, and late-night comment sections where speculation spreads faster than facts. Still, the fascination refuses to fade. Because if there's one thing audiences have always been drawn to, it's the idea that behind every carefully crafted public story might exist another version, one still waiting to be uncovered. That's why this rumor continues echoing through the digital world nearly 30 years after the events it supposedly describes. To supporters, it's nothing more than baseless gossip that should have disappeared long ago. To critics, it's an unanswered question sitting quietly in the background of a global celebrity narrative. And in the world of online speculation, unanswered questions behave like open doors. People keep peeking inside, wondering if one day someone will walk through and finally reveal what's really on the other side. Until that moment arrives, if it ever does, the story remains suspended between rumor and reality, a mystery that refuses to fully disappear while the internet keeps watching, waiting, and asking the same uncomfortable question over and over again.